Welcome to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games and craft beer. I'm Ben. I'm here with Aadil.
Hey.
And Lucy.
Hi.
Hey. Let's get into it and drink some beers. Aadil, what are you opening?
I'm looking for my goddamn... I'm really unprepared. Sorry, I forgot I needed a bottle opener. So it was my birthday on Friday. And,
Hooray!
Happy birthday.
My flatmates, one of them went away and brought me this lovely Boulevard des Philosophes Biere de Lac.
Ooh.
Fancy Belgian? Swiss beer. I know that because she went to Switzerland and .ch is, I think, the right. Anyway,
Pass.
yes.
I don't know.
Anyway, so it is a
What was that, sorry?
10% quadruple.
What's
and I
that?
don't know why I opened it first. I meant to open the other one first, but here we are.
What was
Pop
that,
the lid back on.
Swiss? Yeah? Everyone.
Beer. What was it? Biere de Lac? Did you say?
Yeah, Biere de Lac. Really
Biere de
simple
Lac.
bottle. Obviously,
Philosophes.
it was... Yeah,
What was this? CH? What?
.ch is the
the
domain suffix.
Country code, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I have recapped it. I will open this other beer, having given things away. This is the Sterile Tears West Coast IPA from Abbeydale Brewery in Sheffield. You've probably noticed by now that we love our hop store, and along with our pals at Box Social Brewing, we've rustled up a vibrant and punchy West Coast IPA. We've gone in with a Simcoe trinity of Leaf T90 and Cryo hops, backed with trusty favorites Citra and Mosaic for a clean-tasting explosion of mangoes, passion fruit, and citrus on the palate, and a rounded bitter finish. Beer 5 of 6 save your label. It's a 7% West Coast IPA.
Nice. Cool.
2 strong beers.
That's always good. I've opted for 2 stronger beers as well. Today, Lucy, not drinking this week.
No beers.
That's fair. Sometimes you just gotta have a nice week off. Just relax a little bit.
Oh, I've been drinking today. Just don't have any beers.
That's the reason why it's no beers?
No. I only had 2 pints, so 2.5.
That's fair. So, on to me. I'm drinking a beer from Odyssey Brewing Company. Had a few of their beers before. This is Falling Down. It's a double IPA. It's 9%. It tells me that the kettle hops were Simcoe and Acuanot. The bio-transformation hops were Mosaic. The post-fermentation hops were Citra, Cryo Idaho 7, and Cryo Citra. And it says, keep cold, drink fresh, serve between certain temperatures, and everything that we get from Odyssey on their can. It has got a lovely design, pair of hands with a moth in them. They're always a little bit more, I don't know, what's the word? Some of them have been skeletons. They tend to edge on that sort of slightly darker, slightly more macabre side on their art, and I really like it.
Gothic,
I really like their art.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm going to pull that. Adam's disappeared.
Yeah, I'm trying to take a goddamn picture for this stupid Instagram.
Oh, I see. Don't worry about it, mate. Don't worry about it.
Instagrams.
Instagrams are for Instagrammers, millennials, and people trying to be cool.
Yeah, we're not cool.
I mean, we try to be.
Do we?
Occasionally. Not all the time. Occasionally. I've poured, while you're doing what you're doing, I've poured my beer awfully. And there's an absolute ton of head on
Lord.
this. It's just gone. It's exploded.
Good thing I am now ready so I can wax intellectual about beers while yours set.
Good.
Nose. Yep, it smells like passion fruit, mangoes, and all kinds of tropicalness. The nose actually doesn't have much citrus. There's a slight bitter. I hesitate on pininess, but there's a slight pininess. Really light, in the sense that the bitterness has a resinous tone.
Do you get that in the mouthfeel?
It's actually quite wet.
Yeah.
Not very viscous. Yes. So you're getting more of that bitterness, a little more of that resininess, but it's mostly just. Given the nose was very tropical fruity, I wasn't expecting how much of the bitterness from all the hops comes through in the taste.
Okay.
Like, it's clearly tropical fruit, mild citrus, but it's quite bitter. Not like in your face, but it's like, oh, this isn't like taking a bite of a mango or a passion fruit. This is like I'm having a tropical fruity beer. This is definitely an IPA. Again, not like smack you in the face like we used to get a couple years back, but it's definitely an IPA in the way that the last few IPAs I've had on the podcast have been much more bitter backward in the sense of like the bitter only comes out when everything else is faded. This is this is definitely the bitterness comes out right when the tropical fruit comes out. The citrus sort of shows up and the tropical fruitiness fades, and then you're left with this light but mildly resinous bittering. And it's a kind of a short finish, quite weak, and lasts, I'm going to say, 20-ish seconds before it's kind of gets to the point of not detectability. But a really solid quaff.
Nice, good. And that was the Abbeydale one, wasn't it? That you changed to? Yeah. I have seen them around a little bit more the last couple of months or so. I think I had one from them maybe more towards the summer a little bit. Seen them about. I think what I had from them was good. I can't remember, to be fair. I drink too much beer to remember those sorts of things. But yeah, nice. Yeah, seeing them about a little bit more, which is good. And try and pick one up next time. Mine from Odyssey. As I say, I've had a few from these guys before. They've always been really nice. This one, I'm getting a ton of fruit on the nose. And that's Citra, and I think a little bit of pineapple as well from that Idaho 7, maybe, is coming through sort of quite strongly. It's quite a sort of a strong fruity nose. That's kind of all I'm getting. It's settled down. It's definitely kind of lost its head a little bit. Sort of very straw colour, a little hazy. So we shall see. What was that? About 9%, I think it was. Okay. Flavour is quite different to the nose. So I say, getting those fruity notes on the nose. When I sip it, those fruity notes are there, but that's not sort of what instantly kind of takes me. I'm sort of met with a little bit of a bitterness and sort of stewed fruits. On the start of that, right at the beginning, and it kind of mellows, gives you a little bit of a tongue tingle. It's a little bit carbonated, and kind of settles down into this. I don't know. It kind of almost finds a bit more of a sweeter, maybe malty kind of backbone to it, but the stewed fruits kind of are still there, and they absolutely tell you that this is a higher ABV beer. It is 9%, but those stew fruits and that sort of that mouthfeel gives you that slight burn that you have from liquor or something. Definitely have that in accompaniment to those stewed fruits and that slight sweetness. I don't know whether that kicks in straight away, whether it's that flavour instantly. And I think why that comes in is I'm getting a little bit of the fruit. Now I've had a few more swigs. I'm getting a little bit of the fruit more at the beginning. That then, whether it's sort of the combination with the alcohol, and that sort of gives it that sort of stewed, fruity kind of nature to it. And then again, maybe it's that I'm saying it's a sort of a sweeter sort of maybe malty backbone, but actually maybe the fruits and there's a sweetness from the fruits that is coming back through. Again, just edging back in as this beer goes down. It's really, really dry. It's so dry that I want to constantly be just sipping tiny little swigs of this continuously.
So it's beckoning for more.
Absolutely, and I mean the flavour's really nice as well. So I'm being pulled back by the flavour, but I'm also being pulled back by how dry it is, and wanting to keep putting that back on my palate. Oh my god, what are you doing, Odyssey? 9%. It's so easy to drink. This is ridiculous. Good, but ridiculous. I'm not. You know, those sort of stewed fruits. They're never really kind of top of my list for things that I want.
I was going to say
beer.
it sounded appealing until you said stewed fruits, and I was like, but I think I might just be prejudiced against the idea rather than maybe the
actual
taste.
It's going well despite, like, even though that's not your favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's maybe the combination and the way that the beer is made that sort of that brings it all together, and being dry and having quite a short finish. You know, the stewed fruits aren't the thing that sort of sticks around. It kind of highlights other things, says, "Hey, here's the alcohol, here's the fruit as well," and then sort of disappears and leaves me definitely with that sort of, you know, and again, it does feel like it's a sweet sort of malt and the sweet sort of fruits that are sort of coming back in. So I think it's just very well made in the way that it kind of throws a couple of bits in and then leaves you with sort of a lasting sort of flavour. And again, bit of pineapple kicking back in, got that on the nose. So it's starting after, you know, that initial sip to sort of settle a little bit and come together quite nicely. So I'm gonna shut the fuck up and drink this beer.
Seems like a good thing to do. It does look very nice.
It is very
hazy.
nice.
Oh, I could knock that back. Ooh.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't comment on.
Looks great.
Mine's quite clear.
Oh yeah.
Mildly translucent, so not like the clearest of beers, but you know, it's, see my finger through it, even with the light behind me rather in front of the beer. Also, I really need to get like a good couple of pint glasses that are plain because.
Oh, good.
Ooh,
a Captain Morgan's
Morgan.
sort of yeah.
Yeah, I drink
Not
that
even
by
a
the
pint,
pintful.
like a half pint glass. It's super weird.
Then I pass out and don't wake up for a week. Yeah, that's what I do.
So we did I think I mentioned this last week, we did a purge of glassware, but I wasn't involved, and they got rid of the plain pint glasses, and I was like, well, you kept these bullshit, like, random branded, but not enough to hold a pint things. I don't know. I don't get it.
Peoples are peoples. So Lucy, I think we're going to come to you first, whilst you've got some life in you, whilst you're still awake. I know you're feeling a little bit tired this week. So, and whilst you've not got any beer, we'll kick to you first to bring what you want to discuss this week.
Yeah, I haven't played much of anything at all. In fact, the first game I touched after I think I spoke about Tint last week.
Yeah.
I played a game on Apple Arcade again because that's the flavor of the month.
Getting your money's worth.
The go-to platform
free.
Of October 2019.
Yes. I think my free trial. I don't know when my free trial ends. Maybe later on. Maybe in a week or two. But yeah, still making the most of it. It's just easy to, like, because I've been tired and doing random stuff and going out and living life. Just to, I feel like playing a game. Let me just get this iPad. You know, you just, even like the Xbox has to whir up and stuff like that, or have to get my Switch and see that it's got no battery even though I haven't touched it, and charge that. iPad, just, turn it on. Oh, I want to play this game called Stela, Stela. Just connect Xbox controller to it. What the good thing is that I don't really need to like resync it every time. It just that device just recognizes that controller now, which is good.
Is that do you use that controller with your Xbox at all, or is it just dedicated?
I've got several Xbox controllers, so it's dedicated.
When I was using an Xbox and something else like my PC, I had to resync it if it was the same controller.
Oh, okay. No, this one's dedicated to that. It's a green one, so I was like, Apple is green controller. That makes sense. And that's how I remember it.
Unless they're pink
Copyright
ladies.
aside, Apple
true.
Music, when they were fighting with Apple Productions, the people who put out the Beatles albums,
Yeah.
had to stop having any marketing with a specific tone of green because the
Oh
Apple
wow.
production label was a whole green apple, and so Apple Music had to be the white apple with the bite out.
I remember they had to change it. So it had a bite out of it. I didn't realize the color was changed as well.
Yeah, it was the whole. It was enough. They needed to differentiate so that it didn't seem like they were making money off of the same connotation.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's interesting.
so is it?
Yeah, it's fascinating just like how finicky these things are. Like, is it like someone's getting a wrestler's getting sued, and like WWE 2K or whatever, they're getting sued for using an artist tattoo on one of the wrestlers, and it's like, okay, this artist owns this piece of art which is on this wrestler, which is in this game, and it's like, oh my gosh,
who licensed their likeness, which is also legal.
But does the artist own? Does the artist still own it?
Who knows? It's
Are you just a canvas?
Yeah, that's why I'm just saying it. Yes, it's fascinating about you can only use this.
That's why I use just a font.
Yeah. It's
just in case you're ever in WWE 2K46 or whatever it'll be.
Oh, man, fuck that. I'm only employed until January. If nothing works, I'm gonna just join the WWE as the smallest, most useless fighter.
I'll be there with you.
I'll be the philosopher, and I won't be able to fight. I'll just try and it'll just be like argumentative bets that I will always win. And then everyone like, this guy's the worst. He's never in fights. We want to see fights, and then I'll get.
No, just get you on that first thing. And you're like, right, I'm done. Career over. Yeah, finished. Anyway, Lucy, Stela.
Yes, that was a tangent and a half. Yeah, Stela. It is a 2D side-scrolling puzzle platformer. Very much in the vein of the likes of Inside. Of Inside and Limbo and stuff like that. It's very much like Inside, and I don't say that in a like, oh, you copied Inside, eh? Just in a, it's actually a compliment to, you know, be compared in the same breath as like what is I consider a perfect game, and probably one of the best that's come out this generation. But yeah, it's very much in that style. You're playing as, I mean, you just wake up, you're this woman, you know, there's no dialogue, there's no text or anything, you just start moving to the right. It's very simple, like button controls and inputs, like, you know, A to jump, and like X to interact. These games obviously have touchscreen controls, so I don't know how that would work, but I'm much more comfortable playing a game like this, which is coming to other consoles later on.
Just to go back to the sort of the Inside comparison, is it a similar kind of like tone and aesthetic quality as Inside? Yeah.
It's very much, oh, you're in this foreign world that looks a lot like Earth, but, you know, there's some supernatural, like, creepy crawly, you know, Slender Man things happening, and it's like you're running, you know, you're not what you're from or to, or if you're running towards something, what your overall goal is and stuff like that. But, you know, you're evading, you know, enemies by solving puzzles, like staying in shadows, like making sure you sneak quietly at some points, or, you know, just distracting enemies. You know, basic puzzles, you know, that can work around like a 2-button input system. But yeah, it's I really like the aesthetic of it. It's like these really muted colors, and like each like chapter has like a distinct color scheme to it. So like the first level, or like the second level, it's like these you're going through like this forest at like dusk. So it's like this like these dark yellows and stuff like that, and these like haze coming through the trees and stuff like that. It's really visually striking, and like I'm playing it on an iPad, so this is probably best played on like a TV. So if you got like Apple TV or something like that, or I think it's coming to Xbox. It's probably coming to PlayStation as well. Play it on the big screen, but
it's announced sometime in 2019 for Steam, but they haven't said it yet.
Yeah.
So I suspect it probably will be 2020 February or something.
Possibly.
If there's no release date now and we're in mid-October.
Yeah.
I did take a quick look on Google Play just to see if it was on there, but it's not.
Yeah, it's probably
arcade. I think it's
I just wondered, is it a game that how is Apple Arcade working in terms of the games that are made for it? Are Apple funding any? Are they kind of like a publisher, or is it just a very sort of curated list of exclusives which they have bought the rights to for a certain amount of time?
I think
is it a mixed bag?
But I think it's a mixed bag. I think it's much more of, we're just publishing these and not exactly, giving development costs over to the devs as such. But yeah, because like a lot of these games are on like consoles, like Sayonara and Wild Hearts. This game's coming to that, and like
a lot of them are mobile debuts, right?
Yes, a lot of them have just come out on a lot of them are coming out prior to other systems. That happened with the Switch when that was, shit hot when they were coming to the Switch, and then they were coming to PlayStation and Xbox. Still happening, like that Goose Game. But yeah, so a lot of them are coming to Apple first. It's like, oh, this game that I wanted to play that I, found out it was coming to on console. It was like, oh, it just dropped on, Apple Arcade before even the Switch, like that game Inmost. These are games like Sayonara and Wild Hearts, Inmost, that were showcased on like Nintendo Directs, saying coming to Switch first, like console exclusive and all this like that. So Apple Arcade's pipping them all to the post. Yeah, it's all like
and I think I'm pretty sure what's happened is the exclusivity contracts have been console wise, or maybe console and PC wise, and like people have a sort of like there's a loophole here where mobile is not the same class of platform, and it turns out a lot of these games don't have the like needs of power or computation. So except for like sync a fucking controller and then you don't even have to worry about touch controls. You're going to get the full experience of this game on the mobile, except for maybe screen size, which, as you said, Apple TV can scale in that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the loophole where you've seen things where it's like you can't get away with saying Xbox exclusive. Now it's first out on the Switch, but you can kind of see this on Switch exclusive or Xbox exclusive.
They always use the correct terminology when they're saying console exclusive, or because
Xbox had almost every Xbox exclusive has been a PC and Xbox release day one.
Mm-hmm. So they're like debut exclusive, whatever they say. It's all marketing terms. It's like, yes, this will be on everything eventually, and we all know that. But yeah, it's a cool game. I think I'm about halfway through it. It doesn't. It's not as polished as like Inside. As I said, that's just a perfect game in terms of everything. Like in terms of like its cohesion, its narrative, its audio design, and everything like that. But this is like, it does its own thing. It's not.
And it's not polished.
Clone. It's polished. Yeah, like the animations are great. There's no weird jank to it. It's beautiful to look at, even on like a 10-inch iPad. So yeah, I really enjoy it. It's like my kind of game. It's like a 2D puzzle platformer, especially if it's like atmospheric, like camera panning out and showing different angles and just drawing attention to like the action and drawing suspense and stuff like that.
That's one of the things that's really nice about modern well-made 2D platformers is the director, whatever you want to call them. There's because the camera is very simple on the base of it, they can push certain angles or movements for really strong impact in a way that with 3D games it's so hard because you never know how people are situated or looking, but also in order to make a 3D game work properly, you've got an analog stick or the mouse or something that's controlling the camera, so you can't do that cinematic move without making it sort of jarring because you're stealing control. But with a 2D game, you just sort of take this notion of the camera is omniscient, and then when the director or the creative team, whatever you're going to call them, chooses to zoom in or pan or do a dynamic move or focus, whatever, that has an impact because you have no idea. By the nature of the medium of 2D platforming, you don't think you have control of the camera, so you easily are like, cool, you're showing me a thing.
Yeah.
And that's a thing you lose when you give more control to the player. Yeah. And that changes the narrative dynamics that's available.
Yeah.
And it's why we cut in a lot of sort of 3D games, why you cut to FMVs and
yeah,
you know, scenes and things like that, because you need to differentiate between what's going on. And there's been several games that have come out where actually a lot of the time, you know, if you take something like The Witcher or Batman, you know, any of the Arkham games and stuff, where actually it still keeps you within that space. It just changes the angle of the camera, or you know, Batman will sort of fade and then kick back up into the pre pre-shot sort of scene. Even if it does act in exactly the same position that you're kind of in, and you know, on The Witcher, if Roach is still up on the fucking house and is clipping through the thing, flying through the sky, or whatever he does, like.
I think it's the exception. So like that marks, because it's a more dynamic environment. To do it well, you have to like do that transition really acutely, and a lot of games don't do it. They're just like, fuck it, now we're doing this. Some of the worst offenders are the ones where you're a first-person game and the cutscenes are third-person. I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you doing this?
The only time you see your character after that character customization.
But like I think the Batman games do at least I haven't played
the Scarecrow missions. Those are my favorite parts of those games.
Yeah,
probably because it's 2D and cinematic.
I was going to say, that's actually a good point, right? The reason why the Scarecrow missions, besides like if you are creeped out by the effects, the reason why they feel different and feel like you are in a dream is because they're changing the base like visual mechanic. Suddenly you're doing this in a more 2D way, so you feel like you are not in the same space, so it feels more like a dream. Like the fact that the game is telling you this is a dream or this is some psychosis or whatever, you buy it because your entire dynamic has shifted, but you can still functionally live in it.
Yeah. But if you like games like, you know, Limbo, Inside, I mean, it reminded me so much of Inside because like the opening level, you start like running through cornfields and you go into a barn. I was like, well, this is very Inside, and I was like, I'm fully on board. That was a good opening. But yeah, I spoke about Planet, I think it's called Planet Alpha, like a few months ago, maybe last year.
Yeah, that was a little while ago, yeah.
And I think it might have been one of the episodes I wasn't around.
Yeah,
I think it was,
where I said that was just like more style over substance. I mean, it didn't feel great to control. You know, it was a bit janky, the animation was a bit all over the place, and you know, things weren't clear cut as what you had to do. This is like Stela is far better, far superior. It's got a good art style and it's fun to play, and it's got that polish to it, which you'd expect for an Apple Arcade game because they're all pretty damn good.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, I don't have an Apple device, so I don't have. Well, sorry, I have a MacBook Air or whatever, but that doesn't count. I don't have an Apple Arcade device, and everything I've heard is exactly what people lament about what Steam used to be and what it is now, and what Epic could have been but isn't quite. Like, what people want from a game platform is curation. And
I think Apple,
sure, it's going to lock out certain games that may be really great, and that sucks. But if all of the games are good, and you're locking people out, that's still better than, like, I feel like there's a virtue to preventing false positives, even if it means that you have some false negatives. And like, now that we have 17 million different platforms, curation matters so much more. It's a bit, it's like, we've had this analog before, but it's like, why do people kind of prefer Netflix versus Amazon Prime? Well, it's because Amazon Prime just buys a bunch of random shit to like pad their library, and then it becomes really shitty. What makes Netflix bad now is because the good stuff they're pulling licensing, especially like Disney, because they want their own thing. And like, now people are questioning whether this is a good thing precisely because the curation is less strong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the chips in that hardware at that point where we can have console games running on iPad and stuff like that.
Amazing.
So it is nice that they've started to curate these things. I mean, the App Store's just an absolute mess. So, and they've just sequestered that completely from Apple Arcade, which is great.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that's what we kind of need, and the big problem with Android is because it needs to be accommodating of all kinds of different platforms, it's way harder for Google to do this type of move. Because even if they curated well, either they lock it to like 17 devices, which is totally antithetical to what Android is about, or they say these are the things and they might not run. And that's kind of just as destructive. Like the problem is like Apple has the tyranny of this is our feature set. And they can just say, look, this phone, this iPad level, before that, fuck it. Doesn't count for Apple Arcade. But everything after this will work. Because they have direct
They got me
control.
to buy an iPad, so it works.
I mean, so I've got that tablet, that fucking Dave Wyatt recommended, with the one that came with the little controls.
Oh yeah,
You, like, slide it in.
I haven't touched that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because the Switch came out, I was like,
I upgraded
out the window.
to Windows 10 on it, and now it's super sluggish, and it's basically a PDF reader for me.
Really?
The battery life ain't great, but like mostly, like Lucy said, like if I want portable games, I'll just use my Switch.
Yeah, that's when I stopped using
because of like CPU stuff and compatibility. Yeah, there's some PC games I can run on this that like makes it portable, but it's just also super cumbersome. Like it's got these two external handles. It has to be in a frame. The world has gone past this.
Yeah.
So now it's like, well, I functionally use this in a way that I would rather just something lighter and simpler to do the two tasks I want of it. And I'm thinking of like, okay, if I spent money on this, what would it be? And it's like, oh, it's either an iPad or like a specific e-reader or something.
Yeah.
Get the
And like
iPad,
I think
my friend.
the Windows tablet space
Join
outside
us.
the Surface is just dead, with respect.
I
So,
like my Surface. My Surface is great.
yeah, your Surface, but your Surface is powerful. It can actually play things.
True.
Yeah.
Like
Yes,
the
a
problem
lot
right
of these
now
stuff
is
live in a
can't
very
play
odd
Gears of
space.
War,
now.
but,
tablets
you know.
can't play any game.
True. Yeah,
Yeah, I might want
I've
to,
done
right?
well. Like, obviously, I'm not playing I'm not playing The Witcher 3 on my Surface, but it's done well.
Yeah, and I think we found, especially with the increased sort of screen size of phones and things, that actually Kim had a Kindle Fire several years ago now, and she doesn't use it. We've given it to Evelyn
shitty.
essentially to watch Netflix and play the games that we can kind of get on it. I mean, Amazon do this thing. We haven't invested in it yet, but Amazon do this curated sort of kids package that you have to pay sort of like a monthly fee for, which will give you so many games, and but it's the same sort of thing. It's the same sort of subscription service, but for a kids kind of thing. I think it's like £1.50 a month or something like that, really low. And we're currently considering doing that, putting it on the Kindle Fire, and essentially it being for Evelyn now. It kind of fell out, not of use quickly for Kim. She used it for several years, and
You just aged out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it happens with a lot of tech. These kind of, these slightly lower powered, pads. They live in an odd sort of space that you're kind of like an ebook reader. You are a tablet, but you're a little bit limited. Yes, you can browse the net, especially with the Amazon Fire ones, with their limited OS on them and stuff.
To be honest, I don't know if you've heard of Remarkable, but it's like a note-taking / PDF marking up thing. It's e-ink, but it's immediate response, so high battery life, etc. And I'm thinking of like, actually, what are the functions I don't want out of a want besides a laptop? It's actually writing notes, reading PDFs or ebooks, maybe marking them up. That's it. And like, I know that in a couple of years, whatever device can do, if I get a device that does that bare minimum, it'll still be able to do that bare minimum because there's no layered on stuff.
Yeah,
And the big problem with like tablets and stuff is like they're trying to do all the things, but obviously as software increases, they're not designed for this, so it becomes obsolete. Not because like if I had held on to 7 software updates prior, maybe it could still do some of these things, but like between battery life and like just obsolescence based on design, it's never going to be useful. And so I kind of like a friend of mine's like, oh, just get an iPad with like the Apple Pen. That'll be fine. I'm like, no, but in 2 years that won't be fine.
Yeah,
I understand the cycle of the iPad because it's trying to do more things. I get the thing that's trying to do this one thing. I don't actually need to do the software update one, so I don't have to worry about the software update not like matching the hardware qualifications. But also, so long as it's just a PDF, PDFs are staple. So it's like I kind of think maybe what I want is a laptop and like a dedicated device for the 2 simple tasks I want to do, instead of getting something that pretends to do those simple tasks and a bunch more, but because it wants to do the bunch more, it can't last. Same thing with the Kindle Fire. Right?
How easy would it make your marking?
Only if they all email their things. Only half of them do. Having spent 4 hours today marking, the default is just printing it all off, marking it on paper.
Still worse,
but also because when I like go through the problem sheets with them in class, it's better if they have it in front of them.
Sure.
The worst part is though, they're all fucking Gen Z kids, so they're like, oh, I emailed you with an attachment. Cool. It's like, yeah, but your attachment didn't have your fucking name on it. Obviously, my first move is download all the things they emailed me and print them out, and then it's like, I guess I have to go through my email and figure out whose goddamn problem sheet this is.
Gen Z don't know how to write a letter, let alone an email. Or email.
So I like literally had to
here.
Yeah.
They're like, attach my problem sheet, and then it just answers, and it's like, at the bare minimum, if you think that university is supposed to train you for the real world, put your name on your documents is a really good lesson.
Right, let's move on the conversation.
I'd like to talk about how Gen Z and they don't need to, how they don't know how to do anything.
Maybe that's next week's topic, Lucy.
So yeah, I'm not going to go into
Oh dear.
Only because we've a hard out this evening. I want another beer. But before I crack open another beer, I'm just going to mention a game. I'm not going to talk about it this week because I'm going to lend it to you, Aadil. And even if you have a little blast, half an hour on it, we can chat about it next week. I've played Concrete Genie.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really good. I platinumed it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it didn't take that long. It's only maybe a 7 or 8, 6 hour game, maybe.
A bit lower.
Yeah, keep going down.
A bit hard.
You can probably finish it in maybe 6 or 7 hours, and it maybe only took me another hour to get to platinum it. So a lot of stuff kind of happens. It goes
the PlayStation game.
Here we go.
I think I've done 2. I did Spider-Man. Because everybody did.
Absolutely everyone's Spider-Man.
Ben Spider-Man, I've yet to start it. I am the inverse of platinuming.
That's fine. Play Concrete Genie first because because for this level of production, it is a short experience, and I was really impressed with where the developer Pixel Opus had kind of come from with Entwined, which I wasn't really that taken with. And then to produce this, it's a massive leap between the 2 games, and it's really impressive.
So in the one game you weren't Liam Neeson, and the other game you are Liam Neeson.
No Liam Neesons.
So you weren't taken with either.
Exactly. Yes.
I was like, there's a Liam Neeson film called Entwined. And
no, the thread was there. I think a few knots were tied in it as it went around.
Which is what I do.
Yeah, I think we'll return to it. We'll return to talking about it next week if you get if you get a chance. If you don't get a chance to play it, that's fine. I can just elaborate on my thoughts.
We're seeing each other on the weekend on Saturday, Sunday. I should have some time Saturday, Sunday, Monday to at least touch it.
Yeah, and I know I've got very limited time this next week, so I don't know whether I'll have played anything else. So I'm sort of, giving myself a little bit of an out. Let's open another beer!
Or
what are you
reopen the
opening?
same beer you opened
Oh, yes.
before.
Oh, yes. If only you could pop the cap off every bottle like that.
Oh, I'm a machine. No, I didn't.
Beer de Lac.
From
No. Yes.
Switzerland.
Yeah, Biere de Lac Philosophers. Boulevard de Philosophers. I'm saying that really poorly. You two people.
Philosophe.
Philosophe.
Yeah, probably. Yes, it's probably Boulevard de Philosophe. Biere de Lac. Yeah. There is still plenty of carbonation. I haven't fucking done this wrong. It's 10%. It's a quadruple.
Ooh. Oh, it's
Nice.
a quad. Ooh.
Yeah, it's a quadruple.
Nice.
How many rupples? 4 rupples.
4
Haven't
rupples.
had
Good.
a quad in a while.
Haven't
Haven't had
sorry.
a trip in a
No.
while.
No, neither have I. I have picked up, though, an export stout. It's 7.5%, and it's from a new brewery for me called Bullhouse Brew Company, which Bullhouse, which doesn't have an address on the back, but Lewis said they're from Northern Ireland.
Okay.
So brewed and canned at Bullhouse Brew Company Limited, New Townards. I don't know where that is. This is El Capitan. An export stout, but a whiskey barrel aged export stout. 7.5%. It does give me it does give me a lot of the stuff. So the malt is pale and Munich light, chocolate and crystal 150, roasted barley and oats. The yeast is AY4, but it doesn't give me the hops.
Maybe it has no hops. Maybe it's hopless.
Ooh, I think it probably does.
Yeah, probably. Like 7.5% beer that's all been aged in whiskey barrels. I don't know, it seems kind of low.
Yeah, it does, absolutely.
Usually
Yeah,
like 8 minimum.
until it only says it's on the front of the can. It just says export stout. It doesn't mention the whiskey barrels. It's only when I read the back earlier that I realised, after I'd purchased it, that I realised it was whiskey barrel aged. But as you say, you'd kind of expect it to be up towards the 10, 11
10,
sort of mark, maybe.
Interesting.
We'll see. We'll see.
Flavors.
Mm.
Such a low percentage beer. Well, not low, but
It's too low. Take it
for our
back.
standards on this podcast, it's very low.
So, Aadil, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, so for those of you who can see the video, it's like a quadruple.
Yeah.
It's brown. It's
That's
opaque.
great.
But a medium head, but probably a half pinky. Oh god, it smells great. And by that I mean like it's got that like Belgian tinge and there's this deep sweet alcohol, right?
Nice.
Like it's a Belgian beer. I know it's actually Swiss. I'm just saying it has that notion of a Belgian ale.
It's unmistakable, that smell.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's 10%, and the nose is that 10%. It's a thing that's like standard European ales do. They don't mask it. It's just like this is going to come out. Sweetness has a touch of fruitiness. Like you could think like really sweet raisins or dates, right? Like there's a touch of fruitiness attached to that 10%. Just that strong 10% sweetness. Oh,
He likes
viscous.
it. Yeah.
It's a quadruple.
Smooth, super
It
smooth.
coats the tongue. It's smooth. It's 10%, but you only get that again from that sweetness. Nothing about it betrays like strength. It tastes less strong than that 7% IPA I just had.
Oh. It's
But a
dangerous.
velvety smoothness. And then right at the finish, it's got a bit of a slight, not quite bitter, almost like the mouthfeel you get off of aspartame, like having like a Diet Pepsi, that like aerated notion that's not the fizziness. It's just like a little bit of an opening up. It has that. But other than that, it's exactly what you think a quadruple would do. So it's got slight viscosity, but it's kind of light. Doesn't super coat and like linger. It's sweet, but it's just a standard quadruple, right? It's just doing what you want.
I've always found with quadruples that they're always a little bit too much. They're always a little bit too alcoholic. Like how is this sort of on that kind of on that scale? You know, is it knocking your like your socks off, or is it kind of just works with the flavor?
So I'm gonna appeal to previous beers, which viewers may or may not have had, but like the Roquefort 6, 8, 10.
Yep.
Right, the 8 is my favorite.
I agree.
Less than 10%. It's got the right balance of like alcohol and smoothness and velvety, strong Trappist ale-ness. This actually tastes like is in the same vein of that. As that.
Okay.
And by that I mean like the 10 I feel is too sickly sweet for the Roquefort, and this is not doing that. So like it's kind of given that this is a quadruple, it tastes like a triple, and that's why I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
It's like its boisterousness is being masked by everything else that's going on, so it tastes less in your face, and that's kind of what I want from this style of ale.
Yeah.
Right? I want it to be strong, but not feel like it's laying me out, even though it probably will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's like it tastes like an 8%.
Okay, that's
and
good.
I mean that in the best possible.
Yeah, because I'm with you, Ben. Sometimes quads can be too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the too much is often either like strength of taste or just
sweetness or heaviness.
So strongly sweet in the alcohol, and this just doesn't have that. Like it again, if you told me this was 8%, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Which is really great. I think like that tells you that they know what they're
they balanced it well. Then.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I think that leads me quite well into El Capitan from Bullhouse. As Lucy said, and I don't know if you heard Aadil, that it is an export stout, but it was a whiskey barrel aged export stout, 7.5%.
I did hear, yeah.
And I think what it's doing quite well is it is limiting the alcohol. It is limiting that burn, but I'm still getting a lot of those flavors that you would think I should be. So. It is obviously absolutely pitch black. You get those roasted notes kind of off the nose, and those roasted notes they seep in through the taste, but you're kind of almost met with that sort of slightly sweet, very kind of woody, sort of almost like leathery, like tannins kind of flavour, sort of straight away. It's actually really light in terms of the body. I thought it would be a little bit more viscous than it is, but actually it's quite sort of light in that respect. And you get that initial flavour, there's a little bit of sweetness, the woodiness from it as well. You do get a little bit of the kind of I'm trying to sort of think of the right word. It's kind of like that sour mash kind of whiskey sort of flavour that you're getting with it as well. That's kind of just there in the background, kind of backing up a few of these things. But it does then almost revert back to being stout. And you do have this slightly long finish, which is maybe a little bit chocolatey, a little bit kind of roasted, slightly kind of coffee-ish.
But
so it
are those things only coming out in the finish, not the main taste?
So the initial taste is that very is that whiskey barrel aged flavour to it. And I guess maybe the 7.5%, with it being a lower ABV, maybe it wasn't aged in whiskey barrels for very long. Maybe it's only been a short sort of experiment. And this is looking at. It does say that this is beer number 1 from Bullhouse Brew Company, so they're clearly quite new. With it being beer 1 and it being in whiskey barrel aged, you can't imagine it's been in for a huge amount of time. Unless they've got a huge.
They're doing.
Yeah,
exactly. Well,
they haven't said how long aged.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't say how long it's aged for. So I think perhaps that is why I'm getting all of this. It's front loaded with with what it is, and then it leads, and it just peters out as a stout, essentially, as a nice sort of stout. But yeah, you get that the whiskey barrel aged kind of stuff hits you almost straight away with its sweetness, its woodiness, the sort of the tannins that are kicking through and stuff. So.
Is it fair to say that it's a touch superficial because it fades too fast, or is that too unkind to have?
I think that's too unkind. It's there. I mean,
yeah, I just want to know what
I'm still getting all of those elements now.
They just
I've got a slight burn sort of at the back of my mouth, and then it's gone.
Gotcha.
So they stick around for a little while, enough for me to think this is a little dry. It's nowhere near as dry as the Odyssey. That was fucking absurdly dry. But, I'm thinking of reaching for it now because I want to refresh that. There is a little bit sticking around. Yes, the roasted nature has come in, the coffee notes, the chocolate has shown itself. And I'm thinking, ooh, that lasting finish of having that would be nice with those slightly sweeter, woody notes. So I want to sip it again, bring those back in. Again, really, this is for a 7.5%. It's well made in the fact that it kind of does its thing, leaves you with a very pleasant kind of finish, but a finish that is just kind of just a stout essentially.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And it just leads me into going, yes, please, I'll have some more.
All right, Oliver.
So I am gonna drink this, and we will move on to our final topic for the evening. Aadil, come to you.
Ah, shit. Well, listeners will be surprised to find out that there were no games played by me. But I did want. I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but I did want to talk about the huge thing that happened to the Blizzard in the past week. Because of publication, I think by the time last episode happened, this controversy had already sort of broken. But the long and short of it is, there was a Hearthstone tournament in Hong Kong. Hong Kong or
was it Hong?
No, the Hearthstone tournament wasn't in Hong Kong.
Yeah. There was a Hearthstone tournament last week, and one of the finalists, who's a well-known Hearthstone player, took the time to basically say about pro. So if you don't know, politically, Hong Kong is fighting China right now on notions of autonomy and feeling like feeling like the Chinese rule is given the handover from Britain, blah blah blah. Things are not great, and people are saying you are infringing on our. There's a segment of the population, mostly young people, who are saying the way you are pushing your laws and rules right now are infringing on our rights, which we traditionally have had, roughly. I'm doing broad strokes. I think that's fine.
Very broad strokes. Just to kind of to interject, this is something that has been going on for a little while now.
Last few months, yeah.
Yeah, and there's been quite large. If people don't know, there's been quite large protests in Hong Kong, which have been going on for a while, for weeks, if not a couple of months.
The large scale protests have been going on for months.
Absolutely,
the small scale protests have been going on for longer, but
yes,
it's a huge movement.
And I think maybe why this has kind of come to a head, or at least is starting to filter into other areas, is because it actually got violent last
recently,
week or 2 weeks ago, just before this kind of happened. Before it had been pretty peaceful Lots of peaceful protests, lots of sort of occupation kind of protests, very peaceful. And it's only been recently that it's kind of taken a bit of a turn.
It's been the last few months.
It's
been getting progressively more.
The point is,
it has been
more
getting
intense, but it has been.
It's compounding, and the way it's been compounding has, from a certain perspective, like echoed Tiananmen Square or other type things, right? Like the notion of the general Chinese government cracking down in a way that is infringing on personal rights to the point where people are willing to like be hurt to fight against that infringement. With respect to games, I've lost his name. Shit, I had it and then I closed my laptop. Yeah, Blizzchan. Yep. Basically, Hong Kong-based Hearthstone, a well-known Hearthstone player, got far enough in the tournament, and he was being interviewed, and the interviewers weren't on screen. Important note. And he basically touted the Hong Kong Freedom slogan, and the response was he was kicked out of the tournament. His prize level up to that point was revoked. He was banned for 2 years, and the hosts, the commentators, were fired. This is important because they weren't on screen. They never said.
Yeah, this was an after hours like Taiwanese stream as well. Yeah. Like it wasn't part of the main show.
Kind of niche, and at no point was anyone.
They didn't know he was going to say that. Yeah,
condoning anything. They weren't on the screen, and he
and it's also important to say that the as Blizzard at least called them, the shoutcasters, were actually hiding under the table.
Yeah,
from what I've heard from certain reports. So
So this is where the ambiguity comes in. So if you aren't familiar, Blizzard has curated an ideal of being woke, a woke company. So over the past couple of years, especially with respect to Overwatch, which is by far their moneymaker, they've done a huge amount of like overtures towards LGBTQIA plus populations, etc. They're like, we care about people and their rights. That's who we are. We're gonna make sure everyone feels represented. This is why you should be a fan of Blizzard. Important because you can't divorce that type of political statement from other types of political statements, says some people, including myself. So what they said after this thing was, again, they like suspended and fired the casters as well as the player who made the statement, and they said there's no place for political commentary on in our stuff. It should have just been about the game. But because of the severity of these things, there was huge pushback because it seemed like, again, Blizzard is owned I can't remember, it's either 10 or 20% by Tencent, which is a Chinese company.
10.
I think it's 10.
Yeah.
10.
But I don't know if that's because I'm thinking of Tencent and Tencent. Like, I'm going to just abstain from this. The point is, they have there's a Chinese company which is connected to the government, which has a stake in Blizzard, and the severity of both
everybody else, like they own me.
The severity of the repercussions of the player, and
I wish they'd fucking own me. I need some money.
Yeah,
it was really strong, right? Like, and this is the nuance that really matters, right? It's not that. So they just said, fuck you 3 people. You 2 casters who weren't on screen, you player, fuck you. Fuck you for 2 years. And then they came out with a press release and said the reason why... So there was a huge, like, kickback on that, and people were like, well, it seems like you're taking China's side. And then they released a press release that said, we don't take sides, this isn't the place for politics. When someone made it political, that's when we crack down. But that only makes sense with respect to the player, not the casters who ostensibly didn't know. Like, you might make a case they might have known, but you don't have evidence.
Exactly.
But what was really interesting is they said we were too severe on the player, so we'll give him his prize money for this tournament, but ban him for a year. But we still will hold the casters responsible for a year as well instead of 2. And like that really
Classic
matters.
Chinese tactics, mate.
Yeah, it seems very tactical, and people push back.
Yeah,
to the point where like
so
major Hearthstone streamers and or like tournament players, like the big names in Hearthstone, just said no, fuck this. Blizzard, no, you've gone too far. You've shown that you are a corporation first, and you want your profit to the extent where you are betraying human rights or the values you ostensibly claim that you care about. You've shown your transparency. Fuck you. So Brian Kibler is an American Hearthstone streamer, really big in the community, and he said, "No, I'm done." Like literally said, "I'm done." Even though most of the money he makes, all his popularity, like he does some Magic Gathering streaming, but like he's a Hearthstone streamer.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, you've shown your colors. Fuck you." And I think that matters a lot. That sort of reflects, like, I'm not in that community. My notion of what's right or wrong in that might be skewed. But the fact that, like, the big names were like, no, you're fucking up in the exact way that I interpreted, like, cause as a person who's external, was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you've reassured me that my layman's or non-informed opinion is probably correct. That what they're doing is chasing profits, and they've been caught out.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a very interesting sort of way to kind of look at how maybe they then move forward with with everything that they kind of have. Okay, they have some at least they have some kind of Chinese sharehold within that they would have to answer to as a company. They have various products coming out through the year. Obviously, it's Activision Blizzard now as well. So, you have Call of Duty coming out as well. Things like Call of Duty Mobile, which I would imagine make a fuck ton of money in microtransactions. You have a global presence as a very big company. And Blizzard have, as you say, have always kind of put themselves out as a company which is trying to be inclusive, which wants to present themselves at least as, allowing anyone to be able to come and kind of play their games. And representation through as much as they can kind of do. And they've had blowback about representation in things like Overwatch and stuff like that. And so to see them kind of suddenly, almost instantly coming out and be like, hey, look, here are the penalties for what you did, rather than just being like, we're not associated. They could have just come out and said, look, yes, this is what this we're not associated with that. This is not the message that we want to put out there. Rather than being like, let's take all of his prize money away. Yeah. Let's cancel the contracts with these other people. Let's ban certain people. They've taken a very hard stance with this.
That's exactly what most of the commentators have said, which is, if you really were apolitical, you would have said, this person doesn't represent our views. And sure, pull that person out of things. They had a breach of contract because they were doing the thing they shouldn't have, which is making a political statement on your cast. The fact that the broadcasters were not only banned on the outset, but also when they did their press release, they're like, no, those guys are still at fault. It shows where their loyalty lies, right? Like, the proof is in the pudding, and at no point did they say, oh, we kind of went overboard because we were worried about being seen as political, and we didn't do that right. And being apolitical means letting some messages go through, and that's just the case. It's like, no, we stand by this notion that this message is bad, to the point where someone who wasn't involved, but maybe it probably enabled it, gets punished. That's no press release of saying we're apolitical doesn't remove that, unless you say these people are now rehired.
This is where we start to edge on the and this is obviously me just
waxing intellectual,
speculating and spitballing. in that this is starting to get on the propaganda scale, holding to account the people who are hosting something in the idea that they should know the message that should be put out, and in some way could have and should have stopped this from happening. How in any way a TV presenter could ever stop someone from suddenly saying something, through all of the goodwill in the world on like TV breakfast in this country, someone can turn around and say blah 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 blah, yeah, fucking blah blah blah, and the presenters can never expect that they were going to say that, so how could they be held accountable unless Blizzchung said to them, I'm going to do this, or they had some kind of pre-existing knowledge that this was going to happen and essentially stopped the interview? How can this kind of work? And it leads back to the idea that the shareholders, or at least a certain portion of the shareholders, have some kind of say in the way that things are going to happen from a very specific place.
So I will. Can I just? So the minor devil's advocate move can be like, the reason why they weren't on screen is because they knew there was something wrong going. Right, like that's a move that Blizzard's gonna say, right? But the problem with that is, our default shouldn't be, I don't know why someone might have been in position X, so I'm going to assume the worst.
Yeah.
And the worst being what impacts my shareholder. Like, that's the problem I have, which is, even if they're exploiting plausible deniability, the fact that there isn't any grounds for kicking them out except they have the wrong message suggests that you can't punish them for this. Even if they're gaming the system in this way. Like, even if I assume bad faith on those casters' actions, the fact that I can't prove that they were doing that is the end of the world, end of the matter. Like, otherwise, we lose any notion of impartiality or apoliticalness.
Yeah.
And so when Blizzard says, "Fuck those guys, but we're apolitical," it's like, no. The only way you can say "fuck those guys" is because you can't prove X, but you, for some reason, want not X to be the case. So you're just going to pretend that's the case, and then it's clear that you are doing something based on your corporate investors.
Yeah,
I personally think they probably knew, right? Like, I think they knew that the casters weren't on screen because they knew they might be. The point is, you can't persecute them on that because you can't prove it. Yeah, and as soon as you let go of that, you've lost all, like, plausibility.
The thing is that, like, we know what the Chinese government are like, and they just wanted to cut everything related to this issue out like a tumor. So there will be no questions asked by investors and stuff like that. And it's like, it doesn't surprise me at all. And I think they'll just weather this storm. This will blow over eventually. Things in Hong Kong are not going to get better anytime soon, and all these companies, like, who's the Epic and like Activision, Blizzard, and everybody's like, yeah, we're going to make out as if we're like it, all about freedom of speech, equality, this, that, that should. All these companies, as someone who's worked in the corporate world. Only in the corporate world. It's all buzzwords.
Yeah.
We know
but I will say this, right? So,
and the potential growth in China and far outweighs any kind of, financial growth in China.
The 2,000 people not playing Hearthstone anymore because of this is irrelevant compared to the market in China. Yeah, absolutely.
I do think so. People like DM'd / called out. What's his name? The head of Epic.
Tim
Epic
Sweeney.
also. Tencent also has a share in Epic.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're like, "What does this mean for you?" And he was like, "I'm the majority stakeholder. I own more than 50%. They have a 10% stock. Their vote doesn't matter. I will never let this happen." And
I don't
like,
buy that.
I get that, like, he might be lying.
I don't buy
no,
that.
yeah, but I get that.
You can say that in good faith, but I don't buy that.
But like, I think what matters.
Pull out, it'd be like,
But like, I think what matters is it's clear by the fact that Epic hasn't given up majority stakeholdership.
I think
they can make
if
moves.
Like,
if
I believe
I know enough about corporations,
that would be cool. I'd be like, yeah, you're badass, but I don't believe that for a second. I'm sorry.
Right, but I guess the point is, like, even if I don't buy any arguments in good faith, the only one I could possibly entertain as plausibly correct is the one where the company doesn't, like, can exist, can make decisions, regardless of whatever some opposing company says. Yeah. So the fact that Epic still has a majority stakeholder, which is one person, which huge problems there. We can talk about that some other day. But like, I have faith that China can't unduly influence that, because at the end of the day, he can just say X. Because that 10%, he just doesn't have enough stock. Like, literally, there's not enough votes. He can do whatever he wants. And they bought that 10% knowing that they only had the 10%.
Yeah.
But, like, that's buying into all kinds of capitalist garbage. But, like, the fact that Blizzard doesn't have that is why people are questioning these motives, right? Is because they've given enough of their voting power, so their wokeness is questionable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's all a front. Like,
I mean, absolutely.
Remember that E3 thing got leaked about?
All the details.
No, not the details of the people who attended. The thing about like how they're going to improve E3 next year.
Oh yes, yeah.
We're going to appeal to the kids.
Yeah.
You know, we're woke.
So Lucy, you just
time
introduced a big topic that we can't address this week, but I really want to unpack.
Yeah.
I think we should like keep that in its package and talk about it next week, because we can spend half an hour just.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what kind of bullshit is this notion of planning?
Yeah.
It's the corporate world.
It is. It is the corporate world.
Like, the biggest mistake you can have in any of these interactions
is giving any trust or faith to any of these companies,
or just any like direct notion of like, well, this obviously means this. It's like, no, this follows from this because of some weird corporate shenanigan.
Don't trust anyone.
Absolutely, and
don't trust
I think
any company that's more than two people.
Yeah. And it's very much
so
highlighted.
We're not a company, but we are three people. Yeah. We're fine.
But me and Ben are sole traders, so.
Yeah, we're sold. Yeah, exactly. It's very much highlighted by the statement that Blizzard put out from the president, J. Allen Brack, and he leads off his final paragraph by saying, "At Blizzard, we are always listening." Like, yeah,
to our
because
investors.
you're owned by motherfucking China, so everything everybody says is being recorded.
But also, listening doesn't mean adapting. Like,
no, absolutely, absolutely. It doesn't mean listening and changing.
It's like, we hear you crying,
listening.
but we're not going to do anything about it.
I think they actually say, so to finish the whole quote, to give context to the quote, at Blizzard we're always listening and finding ways to improve. Again, that doesn't mean by taking on the things that our customers are saying.
It's not necessary change.
Improve stock price, I think.
And that's it. That's the thing. That's it. We are improving by making more money, by giving more money to our investors.
I will say this thing. It's really telling that when Destiny 2 had a problem, they left Activision Blizzard and just became free on other platforms.
So supposedly, okay, just as a slight segue, very quick one. Supposedly, the idea of getting rid of Destiny actually came from Activision, and I'll find the tweets.
Yeah, that makes sense because the system that Blizzard had wasn't great. That's my point. Like, it was too wrapped up in another thing.
It's just a garbage. It's not a garbage game. I won't say that.
Yeah,
but everything around it is garbage.
Yeah,
I'm surprised. It's still the best selling franchise of this generation. You know. So
but that just says a lot about the generation, not about the franchise.
The shooting feels good, and that's all I'll say about Destiny. That free trial I played on PlayStation 4.
I like
Well, the
Destiny
original
1 a lot
game.
more than I'd like
Yeah,
Destiny 2.
the original
I
game.
played Destiny
Felt
2
great.
for a
I don't
free
like
chapter.
space people and the moon.
Like,
Peter
the main
Dinklage.
reason
Came
why
from the
I
moon.
kept my Xbox was because I really liked Destiny.
Yeah.
There were like
And now
3 or
it's
4
gone.
months where
So-
I was like, this game is enough. And then when that game stopped being enough, I was like, fuck this thing, I'm selling it.
Exactly.
Destiny 2,
Destiny-
nothing like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think
I
what we
hate
said
hearing about
topic
Destiny.
A-
I want Destiny to. It's one of those games where it's like, cool, whatever, but the fact that you hear about it all the time and people always complain about it and they still play it, I want Destiny to die.
Yeah.
I think Destiny is the biggest regret of this generation.
I mean, I think
In terms of me not wanting to hear about it.
well, if you talk to like someone like Adam, he enjoys it, but again, it's the same as something like The Division. He enjoys it, but when he's playing with people, when he's playing with friends,
But they
and
all
people he
say,
can
like, I
interact
don't
with.
want to
You can
play
make-
Destiny,
You can
but I
make a
still do
shooting
it.
game really fun if you have good friends.
It's got good shooting.
Yeah,
Destiny's
true,
fine,
true.
I just hate
To be honest,
hearing
like,
about it.
The
It
amount
feels
of
like
time I've had
I don't
playing
hear about
with
The Division.
friends
You know?
on Destiny or fucking Battlefield or Division is less than the amount of fun I've had playing Jackbox Party Pack 5 or 4
Yeah,
with
yeah.
friends. That's the point. It's like
Yep.
the friend part overshadows by an order of magnitude the mechanics of X. All you can say is this is a game that mechanically allows me to play with my friends. Not enough.
What are you saying, Lucy?
All I'm saying is that I hate hearing about it.
Right, we won't talk about it anymore.
Siege,
Yeah.
Division, Warcraft, all these people playing these games. I don't hear about them as much as Destiny. I've been hearing about Destiny for
Ages, like
About 6
decades.
years?
I hate it. Was it? Is it 6?
Must be.
Didn't it
We
come out
must be. We must be getting on to
2014?
5 or 6 years.
It's about 5. It's too long, regardless. Because everyone's like, oh, yeah, why do this Bungie to us? And they keep playing the game. Why couldn't you just leave it like Anthem?
Yeah, it's fair.
And I've been hearing about it for 5 years.
Yeah, Anthem. There's not going to be another Anthem.
Oh no, I mean
No.
I don't know a single play. I actually
There isn't a current Anthem.
played Anthem. Like I know people who play all of the games. I don't think I know a single person like who I converse with regularly who actually played Anthem. I know a bunch
Yeah.
of people who have
No.
opinions about Anthem. I don't know a single person who's like, yeah, I played it for X hours and it's kind of shit.
That one person who plays it.
All of those
hasn't left
people
the
who like
house.
are like Anthem isn't great. They just fed
like,
everyone else and they're like, nope.
Yeah, but even the people who complain about Anthem, I don't hear them. I don't hear
Yeah.
anyone who complains about Fallout.
76.
I don't even know its name. 76. I don't hear
I'm
anybody.
aware of it, yeah.
And people are
Fallout
playing it.
5
Yeah.
No.
until Fallout 5 comes out. No, it's
No.
Fallout 5. Come
They
on, that's what they
skipped
wanted it. They wanted it to be
4
Fallout
through
fucking 5.
75.
20 years.
We'll never have a Fallout 5 through 75.
Let's finish there for this
I think
week.
that's appropriate, yeah.
Adil, out of the 2 beers that you had, the Biere de Lac and the Abbeydale, which did you prefer?
Oh god, it's real tough. I'm gonna give it to the Biere de Lac. I'm a sucker for just a really solid quadrupel. It does exactly what it says. It's really great. It's strong. It doesn't betray its strength. It does that, like, given that it's not Belgian, it does that European quadruple notion really well. It's really good, really solid beer. The sterile tiers, I will actually say, as a 7% West Coast IPA, it's a great example of a West Coast IPA. I would have easily said it could have been 5%, but it kind of just does those things. And honestly, the Philosophe does the things it wants, but like if they're both doing just the generic move of what they say, what they're describing, I'm going to go for the Quadrupel over the West Coast IPA, and that's why it wins. Like it's not like either of them are going above and beyond or going less than, but
one's
I'm going to reach for the Quadrupel over the West Coast IPA 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's fair.
Agreed.
Just my choice. It's a better style of beer, so the one wins over the other.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah, I'm having a sort of like I'm having a similar sort of thought this week that you know, both beers are very good and are doing what they kind of what they say they're doing, what they want to do brilliantly. And I don't know who to kind of go for. I think the Odyssey as a double IPA, it was a double IPA, but it's not as you would expect, juice bomb, big, fruity IPA. It's doing something a little bit different. It's got those stewed fruits. There's a little bit of maltiness, a bit of sweetness to it. And then and again, the El Capitan from Bullhouse is a whiskey barrel-aged export stout. But it's doing something different. It's doing it in a slightly different way. You know, I'm not absolutely hammered by those. I am feeling a little bit hammered, but I'm not hit by those whiskey barrel notes.
Right.
Everything is constructed quite well, and it leads into this nice stout afterwards as well. So it's really hard to kind of pick between the two of them. Both doing, both doing something slightly different in the styles that they are doing, and I think I might go for both of them.
Yay!
No,
I won.
That's a goddamn Lucy move.
Lucy's not drinking this week, so I can do it.
Yeah. No. We can't have
think
two
I'm gonna
Lucy's.
get both of them.
Like, Lucy gets away with it because she's Lucy. You can't start being the person who gets away with it. No.
Fine.
I want
Fine.
1 week. Give me 1 week. I want to eat it.
Lucy gets the one. Lucy, we've established that sometimes you just say it's
I'm a
both.
flake.
That's fine, but like Ben has to make a decision.
Right, I'm picking one.
This
I'm
is
picking
me
one,
putting my foot down,
and I'm
that
picking.
means my
That's fine,
fist down.
and I'm picking one
Good.
based on the can art. It's
No.
going to be the Odyssey, because I would instantly see that in the
Like
bottle
real
shop
metal.
and pick it up again.
I'm also gonna say
Having had it, I think if both of these were next to each other on the shelf, one is much more appealing than the other. Knowing that I enjoy them both, similarly.
Right, but
Whether I'm in the mood for an IPA, whether I'm in the mood for a stout, I think based on the can, I'm gonna pick the Odyssey, and that is the one that is going to sit for me this week.
it's fine.
Never
My
judge
point
a beer
is,
by its can.
When I pushed you,
Well,
you had
yeah.
an answer. Therefore, you could have had an answer the whole time.
I think it's perfectly acceptable to have 2 beers which are
Oh, I
equally
get
good.
that. Like, Lucy, I've been like, well, what if you just made a decision? And you're like, no, can't do it.
Yeah.
I do that to Ben, and he's like, yeah, the art works. So that tells me that, like, Ben can make the decision and you can't, so
Nah.
Ben doesn't get away with not making the decision.
Ben's superficial.
Yeah,
If
we all
people
know
want to
that.
talk to us through the internet, they can do so in several different ways. You can go to @TankTapCast on Twitter, TankTapCast on Instagram. You can get each of us individually at the Omniarch on most of the things, at JuicyLoose9 on pretty much all of the things, at Nova_47 everywhere that matters. Go to outoflives.net. Do things, live your life, don't go to China, hang out with your friends. How do I finish this without anyone else chiming in?
Just say goodbye.
Bye.
What's buy in Mandarin?
I don't fucking know. I'm just gonna say ciao.
Ciao.
Yeesh. That's exactly what is expected.
www.outoflives.net